Good morning and welcome to Train Shed Tuesdays, and thank you as always for tuning in. No, I've got a good little following for these now, so thank you very much, and if you enjoy them please spread the word. This week's going to be a slightly longer one again because I'm getting almost professional. Ideas often come into my head what I could talk about, and I've started writing them down, so I've got a little checklist so that I remember what I'm going to talk about, which does mean I've got quite a bit to talk about today. So please stay with me. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the shunting layout that I've just exhibited. Some feedback on conversations I was having with people over what kind of videos should I make. A few non-railway related things as I want to do. I've also had people ask me about where my ideas come from. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Obviously an update on the layout challenge, which is what this is, that's going really well. And we're also going to talk about a really important subject, which is biscuits. And I'm going to show a couple of layouts as well, because I've just kind of rediscovered another layout. So this one, for those of you that have been following, is the challenge layout, the floating shelf challenge. That's going really better than I thought. I've got people all over the world doing it. It's some very clever things being done in America. And it has fired me up to have a go at this. Now, I am going to just take the camera off here because I want to do a few close-ups. So this was, if you haven't seen, then follow the video. But I wanted to do some very scrappy, rough grass. And I looked at my books, and we'll come to the bit about inspiration in a bit, and found that a lot of these colliery and industrial railways had loads of stuff dumped all round. So that's what I've done. It's an old Lima bogie cut up and weathered through there. I've done some sleepers from coffee stirrer, some oil drums dumped. The grass, let's say, have a look at the video, but it was really very easy. Same with the ballasting, really. It's all, I've got to just so looking forward to running this loco. This is the Electro Tren. It's really an HO loco. I know I've spoken about this before, but just look at that. It's a fabulous looking loco. I know some people say it's a bit toy-like, but it's not. And unusually for when you get a good looking loco, this is also an exceptional runner as well. Runs really well, slow speed over the points. And I keep talking about inspiration. Can we do that? I don't know if that's going to... No, I don't know if that's going to work. Let's do it this way. I wanted to do an entrance, and obviously the usual thing is an overbridge or a tunnel. And I really didn't want to do the usual overbridge or tunnel. Now, I could have done a straight road over, but that, again, has been done. And I got the idea of doing a diagonal. And then I thought, I wonder if there's enough diagonal to get a wagon on, and there isn't. Well, of course, there is if you cut the wagon diagonally. And the bridge comes, there's a bit of sentimental value for the bridge. When we first started doing railways, Doug built, he was only about 10 or 11, built the Daypole scaffold bridge. And we've never managed to use it on a layout. And it's got very bashed and broken. And that's a piece of that repainted. So that's quite nice. If you haven't followed it, these are any scale model buildings. Great company, look them up. And I'm really pleased with the way this is beginning to look. Nice little bike shed. The motorbike there is a BMW, World War II BMW. It came, and this is one of those little stories. When we were in our teens in the 1980s, my brother made that. Came from a Matchbox Africa Corps set. Can't remember what the other vehicles were, a half track, I think. My brother painted it up, and it's been floating around in spares boxes and bits boxes for over 40 years. And the fun thing with this project is what I've wanted to do is not buy anything other than the shelf and the back scene. All the rest of it is rummaging through my endless boxes of railways and bits and going, oh, I didn't know I had that. Oh, I didn't know I had that. Or in these cases, I knew I had them, but I couldn't find them. And that's because they weren't in the shed. Just as I was about to tear, I don't know if I can show you, this mess out under here to look for them, I was in the loft looking for something else, and for some reason they'd got to put in a box in the loft, so I found those. But other things like this shed I'd forgotten I had. So it's been a real fun project of, well, what have I got and what can I use? Same with like the brick, embossed brick card is stuff I had lying around. So it's really a layout that's been made from what have I got in boxes, which I'm really enjoying. And it's got me thinking. So let's have a little look over here. So this is, oh, excuse me. You'll have to excuse the panning. I can't edit. I don't have the knowledge or the software. So this is the Japanese layout, which I exhibited at Shunting. And that went down really rather well. But I had 2 very nice messages from people saying, thank you so much for letting my child, because a couple of them were very small children, have a go at shunting the layout. And I think that really makes it worthwhile. So years ago, I read something, and as a guy said, if you write a book and only one person enjoys it, or you make a music album and only one person enjoys it, the whole thing was worthwhile. It doesn't need lots of people. And really, I know a lot of people enjoyed this, but the thought that 2 younger enthusiasts enjoyed shunting make it all worthwhile. And so it's got me thinking about, what do I do for the next layout? This isn't ideal. Engage is a little fiddly. It is going to be exhibited in July at the Pevensey Bay Show, 5th of July. But I'm going to use these different wagons. I'm going to use these short wagons that don't derail as easily. By the way, look at that. Pick this up on eBay. £35. A fantastic little shorty loco. It was missing its pantograph, but I happened to know that I'd got one in a box. Now, I would say there's also a lesson there, because it was described as a good runner. And it really wasn't, except at full speed. And I've had this so often with second-hand locos. Good runner. Yeah, as long as you bang it round at full throttle. Having said that, good. The body comes off quite easily. I could then clean contacts, give everything a really good lube and spray, WD-40, things like that, oil everything. Is now actually quite a nice little runner. Anyway, I digress as always. So it got me thinking about, what am I going to do next year for a shunting layout? And I've got all sorts of plans. I've got O-gauge, I've got HO, as I discussed in the last video, I think. But I'm finding myself thinking, what about using this one? It's only the 60 centimetre by 23.5, but it's going to be built to quite a nice standard, albeit it's easy to do. And that gives me something to talk about, because I've just mentioned in a video, and I might well make a video called Model Railways Are Not That Complicated. To get this kind of level of finish, which some people are saying is really professional, thank you, wasn't difficult. It took me about half an hour to throw some PVA and some scatter and some static grass down out of a puffer bottle, not even using a static grass applicator. And there's some self-adhesive bits there and some scatter, and just threw it all on, and it's easy. Same with the ballast. Ballast like normal. Drop some black wash on it. Makes it look gunky. Dry brush the track. So, firstly, the first message is, it's not actually that difficult to make a nice looking layout. But it's going to be a nice looking layout. You're going to be able to shunt it. I'm going to put a little wiring tube there. Use a card system. I just wonder if that might make an interesting have a go at shunting layout. So I'm going to kick that one around. So, and that kind of brings us also to, I was saying to people that a lot of my videos now are not getting as many views. Although interestingly, subscribers are going up by 200 a month, and I'm getting some really nice comments. So I think possibly what's happening is I'm getting quality, not quantity, which is fine. And a few people quite rightly pointed out to me, I'm not a commercial concern. I'm not trying to get clickbait here. I'm not trying to get as many viewers as I possibly can, whatever. I can only really do what interests me. I can only talk about what interests me. As soon as you start thinking, oh, I've got to make this video or that video because that's what people want to see. Yeah, but if I've got no interest in it, is my enthusiasm, is my motivation for the hobby going to come over? And the answer is no, it's not. So I'm sorry if, perhaps I'm not making the videos sometimes that people want to see. And people sometimes suggest really good things, but they're not something at that time that floats my boat. And also, people are often saying to me, why don't you make a video on this? And one guy, I had to message him and say, with respect, I've made 4 videos on that. It'd be like rewriting the same book over and over again. So sometimes if you think, why hasn't Mike made a video on rock faces or ballasting, or just have a little look back through what I've done in the past, and maybe it's there. So this is going to be a stores layout, a stores and a workshop. And I was doing some reading, and these were very common, particularly on collieries. And it did make me smile, because stores is an interesting word. My late father used to work for caffins in what was the parts department, but was for a long time called stores. And of course, I have a military background through the cadets, and you do come across stores. You have CQMSs and RMSs or QMSs, and the dreaded quartermaster. And it did remind me of the old saying that stores are for storing. If it was meant for issuing, they'd have called them issued, not stores. And anybody certainly of a certain age who spent any time around regular reserves or even cadets will know the various quartermasters who had stuff but wouldn't let you have it. Famously, I remember I clashed swords with one who had taken stuff all the way to the other end of the country for a camp and then wouldn't issue it. And it was literally stores are for storing. Bizarre. I will say I have had some very good QMs over the years, and I wouldn't want to denigrate them. Ray, my last QM when I was Commandant Surrey, was exceptionally good, very helpful. And in case anybody knows my background, I'm definitely not talking about Mr. Wakelin. I'm not going to say any more about his name because I don't think it's fair to give these people's identity away. But I wouldn't want anybody thinking I was talking about Mr. Wakelin. He was a complete legend, especially as a QM. But some QMs, not so good. Food stores are for storing and not going to let you have stuff. So I could just see somebody like that working here, grumbling that people want stuff and not letting them have it. Yeah, great fun. So that was that one. So we were also talking about where we are, where do my ideas come from? And a few people have said this, how did I get this idea to do this layout? How did I get the idea for the bridge? And the answer really is, I haven't necessarily got the world's greatest imagination, but what I have got is a very large library, all bought secondhand, of course, and cheap. And so in the back of my mind, like the bridge there, I'd seen a photograph of a colliery with a railway running over the line. And that's where the idea came from. And what I would say is if you're struggling for inspiration and motivation for a layout, two things. One, keep it simple. That's the whole point of this challenge. Much easier to come up with enough ideas for one small layout. Now, sometimes, you need a more complex layout, and I'll come to that one in a minute because that's quite good fun. But yeah, so keep the thing simple, but also get some books, get some magazines, look around, see what happened on the real railways, and actually ignore a lot of the rivet counters who will try and tell you that this didn't happen and that didn't happen. Somebody pointed out to me, well, you've got to have a siding for each thing, one for the goods shed, one for the cattle deck, one for the coal merchant. No. Looking actually very briefly at books on branch lines, siding having more than one use was really common. There's one up in Wales, my favourite one, where there was only the one siding, and it had the goods shed, the agricultural co-op and the cattle dock all in the same siding. So be very wary when people tell you can't. It didn't. Even in the UK, I like the continental idea of two railway lines with a platform in the middle and you just walk up onto them. Not UK practice, except I found a photo the other day, I think it was somewhere in Hertfordshire, station, no platform in front of it. You walked across walking boards and then you walked up onto an island platform between two tracks. Completely unprototypical for the UK, but there it was in a village in the UK. And I think the kind of perfectionists and the rivet counters, sometimes they do more harm than good. Bear in mind, always remember, this track, when people are saying, well, that loco's not correct, this, that and the other, always remember that all the track you're using is nearly 3mm too narrow. Not only that, there's too many sleepers and they're too small and they're not long enough. They're too close together and they're not big enough. Now, I don't know why that came about. I don't know why, when they did the standard, because they're not right actually for HO track either, which of course, all 00 track was originally HO. And then when we went to 00, we decided to keep HO and all the inaccuracies. But I don't know why standard track is wrong, why it wasn't made right, and why over the years it hasn't been made right. Sometimes people like Pico and Hornby redo their moulds, and you do wonder then why At least the sleepers weren't changed. I know you couldn't change the gauge. So be careful of rivet counters. I've told the story before of some years ago there was a debate about invasion stripes on aircraft in World War II in the model press. And somebody found the Air Ministry specification and was saying, you know, first stripe is 18 inches from the tail wing, blah, yada, yada. And this rumbled on for quite a while until somebody came up and went, I painted invasion stripes on the 4th of June. And believe me, by then, we were putting invasion stripes on with a broom. We were not using masking tape and tape measures with 2 days to go. So be very careful when you get these rivet counters saying, this didn't happen, that didn't happen. Because you usually find it probably did. And so when you're looking for inspiration, get your books out, go on the internet now. You know, that's the most wonderful thing. I mean, one of the reasons when I stopped being into railways and got into tanks, stopped being into tanks and got into railways, is I got rid of a load of my tank books. Because frankly, most of it by then was available on the internet. When in the 1980s I'd been interested, there was no internet and you had all that information from books. But there's plenty of inspiration out there, but books and images are one of the best ways. So I did just want to show this. I wouldn't say I'd forgotten I'd got this. Can I? Yeah. But this is the loop one I made using Kato track. It's only 12-inch radius. Now, interestingly, things will run on this that won't run on my Flexi track 12-inch radius because it's a much more consistent curve. And I've forgotten how much fun this is. It's great watching the trains go round. You can get big Kato Bobo and Bobo locos around it, because unlike the UK where they make them 3rd and 4th radius only, I saw somebody on the internet the other day having to cut the plastic away, which had been moulded, so that his train would run. Once he'd done it, it would run round 1st radius. Now, what was the point in that, manufacturers? I'm sorry, you've actually gone to the trouble of moulding pips on the chassis to stop the bogies moving so that it will only run round a 3rd radius curve. Utterly pointless. Why would you do that? If somebody doesn't want to run it on less than 3rd, that's fine. But you don't have to physically make it impossible. Japanese, doesn't happen. They know a lot of people have only got very small rooms. So this is it running around 12-inch diameter. Bear in mind, UK is 18-inch diameter minimum. That's out here somewhere. So, you know, most UK locos won't run round less than 18-inch. Here's a Bobo locomotive running around 12-inch. But I like this layout. I can shunt on it. I've got a lovely little passenger station over there. Scratch built a signal box. It's got a level crossing. It's got a tunnel. It's got a good yard. It's got a hill. It's got a pillbox. It's got everything. And it's only, I can't remember, it's just over 2 foot by about 14 inches. I think it's 26 inches by 14 inches off the top of my head. Tell you what, I have a yard rule by my right hand. Let's have a little. Yeah, 14 by 27.5. So I wasn't too badly out. Having to be careful with my right hand at the moment. I dropped the motorbike on it the other day, not riding it. I moved it because it was in the way of the builders. It slid off the brick. I put my hand out to stop it. I bashed all my hand. It's kicked off the arthritis. Spent 2.5 hours in A&E today. And of course, the answer was tough. You've knackered your arthritic hand. It's probably not going to stop hurting. Could be a lot worse. People are coping with a lot worse out there. But it is a bit of a pain in the arse. At the moment, even a knife and fork is a bit of a pain. And actually trying to use a Stanley knife is a bit painful. I'm hoping it will calm down a little so I can get some modelling done. There you go. Sorry about that. It moves every time. If you don't like it, sorry. I was going to talk controversially about biscuits. I've mentioned tea before, and obviously if you're going to have a cup of tea, you're going to have a biscuit. Don't have any down here actually today. And I just wanted to say sometimes I am prepared to admit I'm wrong. That will come as a shock to people that know me. I've always disparaged custard creams, and I did in desperation eat one the other day. My wife's very good. She knows that if she buys chocolate hobnobs, that packet has got a life expectancy of a morning at best. I can easily eat a whole packet of chocolate hobnobs in one day. I'm not a fan of custard creams, so if she buys a custard cream, I'll eat them a lot slower. However, I'm not prepared to change my view on bourbons. I think they're awful. They're the work of the devil. I cannot understand how people call them chocolate biscuits. They're not chocolate. They taste like something burnt. I know that's a controversial view because custard creams and bourbons are allegedly the two favourite biscuits in the UK. I find that difficult to believe. I suspect it's probably chocolate digestives, but there you go. Controversial, I know. I'm sure the comments are going to light up now, except for our overseas watchers who wonder what this idiot's blithering on about. But then if you wonder what I'm blithering on about, you're probably not watching into 20 minutes of this anyway, because I'm usually blithering on about nonsense. And a big shout out to the people who watch us. One of the reasons I've started uploading these about 7:30 in the morning, which is the worst time to upload for the UK, the peak time is after 5 p.m, is because the interesting thing is I pick up an awful lot of Americans, Antipodeans, Kiwis and Aussies, all sorts of places, Sri Lanka, all over that part of the world, India also. So I tend to upload them in the morning, but you must wonder what I'm talking about sometimes. India's an interesting one. I find India and China interesting. China makes all the model railway locos in the world pretty much, but doesn't have a very big model railway market as far as I can tell. India has a huge population and a great history of railways, but doesn't appear to have a massive model railway following. I'm prepared to be told I'm wrong. I'd love to find out if I am wrong, because if there's lots of cheap Chinese and Indian locos kicking around out there, especially some of the diesels, I'd love to know where to get them. But it's interesting that those two big markets don't seem to have embraced model railways. I think that's more or less it. Challenge is going really well. Loads of people following. I've been a bit flexible with the rules now over fiddle yards. I've had somebody that said, can they have a fiddle yard at each end? Can't see why not. I've had somebody in America does this wonderful thing in Engage with a traverser off scene on this space. Fabulous. But I'm not backing down on the size. That to me then changes the whole point. The whole point is trying to make something work on this size. 60 by 23.5. I've wriggled a little for our North American cousins because they're still in Imperial and their standard one is 24 by 10 inches. Well, you can always pull the back seam in and then you're still the same size. And the reason I wanted to make this one in 00 was I felt a bit mean. You can do all sorts of things in N. You've seen my other shunting layout, and tucked in there is a round and round with 3 sidings in N. So I thought it was important to show solidarity and say, well, actually in 00 or HO, or as you're using this track, possibly 7mm or 16.5, you can still make a layout. And it's really gripped me, this one's going to get finished. The ballasting, first attempt at making mucky ballasting. Oh, I nearly said the wrong word there. I nearly got in a mucking fuddle there. Worked quite well. And this again brings me back to what I said at the beginning. I saw somebody, Dibs Shunting Yard, big shout out. He's got the most fabulous shunting layout. And I wasn't sure I could get this looking anything anywhere near as good as his. But it actually, bit of ballasting, some black wash. Oh, before I go, I do need to mention, I said I would mention AIMREC, AIMREC. It's the Ashford International Model Railway Education Centre at Bethersden in Kent. Nipped out there yesterday on the motorbike. Lovely day for a ride. What a wonderful place. It's like a little model railway exhibition, permanent. It's open, I think, Thursdays and Sundays, but check their website. And it's got 2-3 big layouts from the Model Railway, Channel 4 Model Railway Challenge. It's got some really nice layouts there. Great little model railway shop and a fabulous little tea room. Great tea and cakes, I can tell you. Fabulous piece of carrot cake. Check the website. If you're going to be near Ashford, between Ashford and Tenterden in Kent, please put it on your to-do list. Check their website for opening times, but I know they're there on a Saturday. I said yesterday and today's Monday, isn't it? Yeah, Saturday I went out there. It is absolutely worth a look. In August it's expanding. It's going to be double the size. And I think the opening times are going to change and they might be introducing a small charge, which will still make it worthwhile. Because then it's going to be like visiting a pretty big model railway exhibition. And their aim is to be, if you like, a museum of model railways, and it's about model railways. It's not about the real railways, so it's not a preserved railway. They have a miniature railway there as well. Great for the kids and the big kids in us all. So if you are that way, please take a look at that. So there we go, 25 minutes today. I think it's one of the longest Train Shed Tuesdays. That's because I've got organised. We'll see what happens. I don't think they'll always be this long. I'm hoping in the next few days to get all this part of it done. And I'm still really quite interested in turning this into an exhibition layout. Let me know what you think. So for the few of you that are still here, thank you very much. Big thank you to all our overseas friends for tuning in and watching. And I really appreciate the support for these. They work well for me because I don't want to do a video because I've done one thing. You know, I've laid a bit of track. And I like to be able to sort of ramble on a bit about different topics. And I know some of you enjoy it. So thank you for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon.